Good evening, boys and ghouls. You are listening to Where the Scary Things Are, with collaboration with ZC Emporium for B Movies and PromoteHorror.com. Please follow us on Twitter at Scary Things Pod and follow us on Facebook. Check us out on our website at www.wherethescarythingsare.com. I'm your host with the most, the one, the only, Monster Mash Ken, and with me is my co-host, the Mistress of Darkness, the Queen of Fright, the Lady of the Night Muse. What's up, lady? How you doing?
Pretty good, hanging in there, getting the last drops out of summer, I guess, before we go into fall, my favorite season.
Right, I know. I think we're getting one last heat wave here,
Yep.
and
Same.
we'll see what happens. Also joining us is the man, the myth, the legend, Chris the Creature Zissy. What's up, my friend?
Well, I'm doing great. It's Tuesday. I'm with you guys again, and I am just happy to be here.
I bet. And I believe that you are home away from home.
I am. I'm in my Topeka, Kansas office, which is always nice, and I'll be on the road for a couple of weeks. So I will be next week on parts unknown and probably another exotic place. So follow me around, and you'll see the country.
Well, I'll tell you what, just don't end up in Florida where our other co-host, Horo from PromoteHorror.com is from. How you doing, Horo? You still alive?
I'm still alive, but I'm not doing so well because the other day they released this trailer that kind of reminded me of something, and it kind of reminded me of this. I don't know if you can read it, but it says vampires don't sparkle. So
we're going, dude.
You, my friend.
We're going to watch The Batman, and I'm gonna fly out to Florida, and I'm gonna take you to this movie, and it's gonna be awesome. And
not happening.
It's funny that you bring that up because I'll get to that in a second. But we have a great show for you guys tonight. We're going to be talking to Hank Pretorius from the movie The Unfamiliar. He is the director. We actually interviewed him earlier, so if you caught that on an earlier segment, great. If not, listen to it on the podcast here. He is a cool dude. It was like 2 a.m. I believe he was in Turkey right now. And he stayed up with us, and he rocked out, man. I could not do that for any podcast, so thank you so much, Hank. I'm going to jump right into the Fear of the Beer of the Week and the horror movie flashback. But before I do, I forgot to ask you guys my quick question. In regards to the movie The Unfamiliar, if you haven't watched it yet, definitely check this out, listeners. It's streaming everywhere, but it has a lot to do with folklore and urban legend. I wanted to ask you each if you guys had any urban legends in your respective towns. Chris, pick one area. I know you travel all over the world, so you can pick one if you'd like. If there's a urban legend that you want to tell us about.
Well, I can do one from my home in Fredericksburg. When we first moved to Fredericksburg, Virginia, which is more people were killed in the Civil War in that county than any other county in the country. They had four major battles. So we're built on a graveyard, basically. There's a restaurant right downtown on Caroline Street called Spirits, and supposedly it's haunted. Ironically, two sets of ghosts. The top floor, you can actually see the rope burns on the beams where they hung slaves who misbehaved. And in the basement, there's a tunnel that leads out to the river. It's bricked up now, where it used to lead to the Underground Railroad where slaves escaped. So it's an ironic location, but the ghosts walking around have nothing to do with the Civil War. They have everything to do with colonial times. Some women in colonial garb can be seen walking through the walls. I've never seen it, but then again, I'm pretty oblivious and not very detail oriented, but I'm sure they're there.
How about you, Horo? Do you got any? I'm sure there's plenty in Florida.
Oh yeah, there's the ongoing legend of Florida Man. It's just a continuing thing, I mean, you can check Twitter, Facebook, any social media every day, continuously. Florida Man is doing something, sometimes something scary, most of the time something stupid, but always there all the time. And I think I've probably been Florida Man at least once or twice.
You probably still are. Muse, what about you, lady?
Okay, I had to Google. So I'm over here like, give me my phone. My husband's flagging me down. He's telling me something. I can't hear him. I don't know. He knows one around here. I don't know. I'll have to get him on here one of these days and he can tell it. But I did remember one. And now that I'm looking at the Dog Man of Michigan. And I, it's a short little thing, says, if you ever hear a human scream echoing through the woods, watch your back. It could be Michigan's dog man. This fearsome beast is supposedly 7 feet tall with piercing eyes and the torso of a man, and is said to have wandered the Manistee River area back when the Ottawa tribes lived in the area. And then one more, the Hell Bridge, which is a creaky, narrow footbridge nestled in the woods of Algoma Township, a bit north of Grand Rapids. And it's known to harbor more than safe passage over Cedar Creek. It's about I guess the story goes that a deranged old preacher named Elias Frisky once tethered a group of children to the trees in the woods before murdering them and throwing them into the creek below, which is pretty horrible. He was eventually caught by the parents of those kids who would hang him. But before he met the gallows, he is said to have told them he was possessed by demons. Reports say that those who make their way over this bridge at night claim to hear the screams of old Elias victims and are sometimes met with a black figure with glowing eyes. So those are a couple. There's a bunch, I guess. And that one's pretty freaking creepy. I don't like bridges anyway. So I'm not going across any bridges in Grand Rapids. Screw that.
Yeah, just stay in your house, and I think you're safe. So obviously, I'm in Jersey. You hear about the Jersey Devil. I've never had any run-ins with the Jersey Devil, but I'm good. I've seen some weird things. I saw this one weird animal, but it turns out it was like a bear or a deer that had mange. So I thought it was the Jersey Devil because it was at night, and it was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And it looked right at me, and it ran into the woods. So. With that being said, the movie The Unfamiliar kind of goes into some Hawaiian urban legends a little bit. And watch the movie. You'll love it. And definitely check out the interview later on in the show. So I'm going to kick it off the show with the beer of the week. And this is another, I don't know if you guys can probably see this, but this is a Mother Earth, I said Earth, Mother Earth Cali Creamin' Vanilla Cream Ale Creamsicle beer. So this beer is supposed to taste just like a creamsicle orange pop. So let's see. Wow. That's crazy because it tastes like a cream pop. That is absolutely delicious. Wow. I'm going to drink 100 of these tonight. Okay. So my horror movie flashback, not necessarily a horror movie flashback. I did want to mention one film, and I'll let Chris mentioned, we spoke about it a couple weeks ago. But Luciano Fulci's Zombie came out today. I forgot what year it was, but that was something that had came out today. But I wanted to pay homage to Tim Burton. That's my background right now. If you don't like Tim Burton, something is wrong with you. Horo, you mentioned Batman. I wanted to bring one thing up. Do you remember when everybody made a big deal about Michael Keaton being Batman, and everybody thought it was going to pull it off, but he's probably the best Batman, if that's my opinion. And then when Heath Ledger was going to be Joker, everybody made a big deal about that, so on, so forth. As long as it's not Johnny Depp, I'm good to go. But Johnny Depp, I'm sorry, Tim Burton, so many great movies: Edward Scissorhands, Corpse Bride, Nightmare Before Christmas, Batman. I think they had both Batmans: Batman Returns and just the regular Batman. Sweeney Todd. Mars Attacks, all these great films. I won't mention Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or whatever you want to call it. We can delete that into existence. But Tim Burton is awesome. I've just always, as an artist myself, I just look up to him as an artist. I thought he was brilliant. One film that you should definitely check out is the making of The Death of Superman with Nicolas Cage. It never got made into a feature film, but they did a whole making of it, and it was brilliant and awesome. So that is my horror movie flashback and the Fear of the Beer of the Week. Definitely check out Cali Creamin' Cream Ale, Creamsicle, sorry. And this is from Mother Earth Brewing Company. With all that said, I'm going to pass it on over to Muse, and we'll get into the Deathly 13.
Sinister Six.
I enjoyed the beer so much I wanted to drink it. So the Sinister Six, take two.
I know I want some of that creamsicle. I'm over here going, ooh, So I just want to say Michael Keaton is the best Batman. So we're just going to end that argument right now. I love him. But I want to say really quick, I watched the trailer for the new Batman movie. And, I am not going to hate on it. I'm not hating on it. I don't hate Robert Pattinson. But I didn't like his suit. I don't know. I'm going to get booed for that. I didn't like his suit. I don't know. Looked too padded. I don't know. I just, I think I'm gonna love the movie though. I'm gonna like it. I'm not gonna boycott it or anything like that. But I wasn't digging the suit, but I did love the preview, and I'm gonna give it a chance. So I definitely think I think it's gonna be good. I think it's gonna be like you were saying, Michael Keaton. There was a lot, and Michael Keaton was just tore it up, and Heath Ledger was a very memorable Joker. So I agree there, but I wasn't digging his suit. So don't send me hate mail. All right, so we talked a few weeks ago about the movie The 10, and this week we're talking about The Unfamiliar. But there's both scenes in there that are kind of unnerving that happen in the woods. I mean, that's Horrell said it earlier. Every other horror movie ends with or starts with or has a great memorable scene of a terrifying scene in the woods. So I thought I would come up with my Sinister Six horror movies that may keep you out of the woods for the rest of your life. I plan to be out of the woods for the rest of my life unless I have to go in the woods. Not going to. There's bugs. There's all kinds of crazy stuff and serial killers and God knows what else, Blair witches and all kinds of stuff. So I'm gonna swing back around to you guys after I do my list and see what your choices were for maybe some terrifying horror movies or maybe your favorite horror movies that have some memorable scenes that happen in the woods, etc. So speaking of the Blair Witch, I'm going to start with the Blair Witch. We know the story. There's a documentary film crew, a couple of friends going there into Burkittsville, Maryland. And they decide that they're going to check out the myth and folklore of the Blair Witch. And of course, everything goes horribly wrong. The whole thing is a horrible idea. They get lost. There's crazy stuff going on. They're fighting. And then, of course, the scary stuff starts to happen. Now, they think it's like a cult, a satanic cult. And then they don't know if it's actually the Blair Witch. And of course, all of us that have seen it, either I know there's a lot of split decision on this one. I loved the Blair Witch. Another great film that surrounds urban legends, and we've talked a little bit about that, and we'll talk more about it when we speak about The Unfamiliar in a little bit with Chris's review. But the Blair Witch just seemed like a great kind of like movie to choose here because of the fact that it takes place in the woods and it's also revolving around urban legends. So, and also, the folklore of the area. So that's my first one. The second film that has a pretty terrifying premise that happens in the woods is the film called The Ritual from 2017. This, I believe, is still streaming on Netflix, which is where I originally saw it. And if you have not seen this one, you guys got to go back and check this one out. This was it has a really great creature in it as well. But it's about a group of 4 college pals that are reuniting after the tragic death of their friend. So they set out to hike through the Scandinavian wilderness. This is already a bad idea. Let's just go hiking. We're out in the wilderness. It's probably not going to end well. But a wrong turn leads them into the mysterious forests of Norse legend, where an ancient evil exists and stalks them at every turn. So more terrifying scenes in the woods. We're out in the wilderness, and another really fascinating tale of folklore of the area, this time Scandinavian. So definitely check that one out. I believe it is still streaming on Netflix, The Ritual from 2017. The third film, speaking of wrong turns, is Wrong Turn. So we're a fan of this franchise. We had Sadie Katz on a while ago, but this is focusing on the first film. We interviewed her for, I believe, the 6th film, but this is the original from 2003 with Eliza Dushku, and it centers on friends Jesse, played by Eliza, and Carly, and they're traveling with their pals Scott and Evan and Francine, etc. And they have car trouble in West Virginia. Moments later, there's a motorist named Chris that crashes into their disabled vehicle. Stranded, the friends discover that they're being stalked by a horde of backwoods cannibals. And, of course, it's some great gore scenes, some very memorable stuff going on here. Like I said, it's going to keep you out of the woods, the mountains for that matter, too, probably for the rest of your life. But the woodsmen are hungry. They're fierce. They're going to be eating well unless Jesse and their pals can, get the heck out of there, can outsmart them, etc. So Wrong Turn from 2003, definitely a classic. Hopefully you've all seen this one. Definitely a great film, horror film. Great scarers and great gore in that one. The fourth one is focusing again on some more folklore, this time of the Bigfoot variety. And this movie is Willow Creek from 2013. I have not seen this film, and I've heard about it, and I've been trying to track it down. So if you know where it's streaming free, please tell me. Send me mail. But it centers on a man played by Bryce Johnson and his girlfriend who camp in the woods to capture firsthand evidence of Bigfoot. So I kind of get the feeling this is a found footage, which I love even more. But I've not I've not found this one, but this definitely sounds really interesting as well. And I love that this was directed by Bobcat Goldthwait, and which was really interesting, which really caught my eye. And he was an actor as well. Did a lot of 80s movies, Police Academy. He did One Crazy Summer. He did a lot of stuff, but he's started directing, and this really looked like a great film. I believe I saw the trailer for it a while ago, so I'm definitely looking for this one and looking forward to finding it and tracking it down and watching it. So that is the fourth film. The fifth film, you may argue, is not horror, and it's not. It's more of a thriller, but it does deal with the wilderness and horrible, horrible things happening. It's really bleak, very grim, but just an excellent movie and keeps you on the edge of your seat the whole time. It's The Gray from 2011 with Liam Neeson. And it follows a grueling 5-week shift at an Alaskan oil refinery. And the workers there, who are led by sharpshooter John Otway, played by Neeson, and they're flying home for a much needed vacation. But a brutal storm causes their plane to crash in the frozen wilderness. And only 8 men, including Otway, survive. So they're trekking southward towards civilization and safety. Meanwhile, Otway and his companions must battle mortal injuries, icy elements, and a pack of very hungry wolves. And there's woods in there somewhere, but the whole thing is it's the wilderness and just it's bad. But it's definitely one of those films that really had me tensed up the whole time. I think I didn't realize that I wasn't breathing until the end. I was all tensed up and everything. I'm just like, everything just felt like it released, like when after I got over. But it's a little on the bleak side and very grim, but just a really riveting film. So I definitely would give this a watch if you have not. I know most of us have probably seen that. It's not horror, but it's more on the thriller end of everything. And the last one, some people are probably going to say the same thing about, but it's a classic, and I got to mention it because it's more of a jungle, but it's Predator. Definitely not woods, but jungle, close enough, and just all kinds of crazy stuff are happening. This is a classic. I mean, Schwarzenegger, one of Schwarzenegger's best films for sure. Of course, we all know the character Dutch, a soldier of fortune hired by the U.S. government to secretly rescue a group of politicians trapped in Guatemala. But when Dutch and his team, which includes weapons expert Blaine, played by Jesse Ventura, and CIA agent George, played by Carl Weathers, land in Central America, something is gravely wrong. After finding a string of dead bodies, the crew discovers they're being hunted by a brutal creature with superhuman strength, and the ability to disappear into its surroundings. So definitely one of those memorable films that I don't know what you're doing with your life if you have not seen Predator from 1987. It's a classic. I remember my dad running this one. He would just keep rewinding it. And I mean, I loved it, but he loved it. I mean, he absolutely adored it. So jungles, forests, wilderness, icy wilderness, I'm staying out of all of it. So I'm going to swing over to Chris to start out and ask him what some of his favorites horror movies that centered around the woods, the wilderness, whatever you want to choose are.
Two that come right to mind. One's a franchise and one's a standalone movie. I think it was 2018, maybe 2017. It was a Bigfoot movie. By the way, we can throw all Bigfoot movies in here. I love them all. But if I'm going to pick out Primal Rage from about 2018, guy and a gal, I think they're married, go into the woods. And of course, some, they're not rednecks because it's Washington State. So I don't know what they call rednecks in Washington. So follow them in, cause a lot of trouble. They're probably going to rape the lady if the Bigfoots don't show up. So now they have two problems. They have the redneck guys and they get the family of Bigfoots. But at least now the redneck guys have a problem too. And these Bigfoots, they're big, they're mean, and it looks like they're very, very intelligent in communicating. And it's got a uneasy ending. I'm not going to say if it's a happy ending or a sad ending, but there's an uneasy element about the ending. And the other thing is I just love, and they're usually on the Sci-Fi Channel, the Lake Placid movies, the alligator in Maine,
Yes.
which is a very believable plot, who knows? They're leaving Florida in droves and wonder why. So it makes sense that they'd end up in Maine. But Colin Ferguson is in a lot of them. There've been a lot of big names who've become big names have been in them. Casey Banfield, who's Casey Clark, had a bit role in one of them. Betty White, I think, was in the first one. Those are just a lot of fun. And give me a 35-foot gator, I'm good, or croc, I'm good. And of course, one of my all-time favorite movies of all time, Crocodile 2: Death Swamp. It is one of the best movies ever made. The stewardess who battles the 40-foot crocodile. I like that gritty reality about these plots, and this one has it.
Well, I'll tell you what, with all the stuff we put in our water, who knows how big they're going to get, right? So I don't know. All I know is I'm staying out of it. Yeah, water, crocodiles, alligators, jaws, sharks. I don't know. But yeah, I agree. Lake Placid, Betty White's got some pretty iconic lines there. I'm not going to repeat them, but we all know them. She has some pretty amazing scenes there as well. So okay, what about you, Horo?
All right. Well, you'd be fascinated to know one movie that also takes place in the woods, and that's Twilight. Yeah, that's pretty scary stuff right there. Nothing gets scarier than that. Plenty of wood scenes in all of those movies. So yeah, there we go there. But besides that stupid nonsense, there's a recent film Becky, which kind of takes place sort of in the woods, which I definitely recommend. And but I was kind of thinking and going to Cabin Fever.
Yes.
How about that niceness there, nice and bloody, and ugh, that will keep you out of the woods and keep you away from viruses and bacteria and all that stuff that we see now all around us.
And
So
not shaving
yeah,
your legs, and not shaving your
yeah,
legs.
Don't drink the
not
water
sha-
again. More
no,
contaminated water, man. That was
exactly. We have contamination and leg shaving and dogs going crazy, and yeah, let's just that if that movie doesn't keep out of the woods, and I don't know what will.
all right, Monster Mash Ken.
Yeah, first and foremost, you know it's going to be a great show when you mention Predator because
Yeah.
I probably have to say, and I would love to have this argument one day with somebody, that that is the best action movie ever made. Like hands down, I think it's the
I don't know
best
about all that.
action movie.
It's up there.
Well, it's an argument that I would love to have, and if you ever want to go with toe to toe with me, I will rule you. Okay. So speaking of your movie, one movie that really scared me, and it's based on a true story, and it's not a horror film, but it was a fucking horror of a movie. And Alive. You remember this movie where the guys get trapped out in the wilderness and they have to start eating each other? But it's not horror, but it was so scary because it was like so real. And John Malkovich is narrating this movie, and oh, Ethan Hawke was. I just it was a horrible movie, and I remember watching it in the theater, and I'm cold because they're freezing, and they got to make the. It was scary. It was a scary movie because it was real. Like, what do you do in that situation? Obviously, you know, you got all the camping movies like Friday the 13th and all that crap. But I have to say one movie that wasn't scary. I just thought it was a good movie, good horror movie is The Witch, because you know they're out in settling. You know, we get settlers and they get kicked out of their respective province or whatever. And they have to go out and find their own, and then they have to witch out in the woods and you go. So that was kind of scary to me. But yeah, so those were my two movies that I picked. Great Sinister Six list, Muse.
Yeah, I mean, I have to honestly say that Alive, definitely, I agree. I forgot all about that movie, but I remember the first time I watched it, I was
Right.
like, "What am I watching right now?" Definitely horrifying for sure. I think
Yeah.
it all depends on horror is different things to different folks. So I definitely think your worst nightmare is considered horror to me. So definitely, that's a
Yeah.
great pick.
I mean, that's scary. Like you think,
Scary.
yeah, it was a horrifying situation, you know. So they had to make do with what they had. So speaking of horror, let's throw it on over to Horo and the promote horror rundown.
Yeah, all right. So here we go. We're going to talk about remakes as we usually do. And keeping with my theme, we're going to talk about not remaking Twilight. Yes, no. We don't want to have that discussion. We want to have listeners. We don't want to turn everybody off. But yeah, we don't want to have Twilight ever. No remake, no nothing. Yes, I'm jamming it down your throat for showing me that Batman clip here. No, instead, we are going to talk about a movie which we may have some disagreements about here. I think High Tension bringing that up last week was interesting, and could have some interesting conversations about that one. And we're going to debate this one probably, and it's Paranormal Activity. Yes, the first one. And why am I bringing this up? Well, I know a lot of people love this one. I know Muse probably loves this one, but I had a problem with this one. And yes, I liked what we're covering here in the overall series, but I definitely thought that there's something that needed to be changed. And so, for those who don't know, basically, Paranormal Activity basically was setting the stage for found footage. Not the first found footage movie, but definitely set the stage for a lot of the movies that came after. And very simple concept here. You have Micah and you have Katie. They're in their house. They're having all kinds of good time. They just moved in there and having spectacular time getting to know each other and so forth. And a ghost starts haunting them. And we see most of the action through cameras that are in the house, which present plenty of good scares and so forth. So this was super well marketed, super well brought to the forefront here. It began as a short film and made it on the big screen here and blew everybody away. So what is my problem with it and why do we need to remake it? Well, we need to fix one thing with it. Like last week, we had to fix the ending of High Tension. I needed something fixed in this movie. And Beth basically is, the movie, as you see it starts out very real. You can see this as a very real event happening. You don't know really what's haunting them. You see really scary scenes. I mean, very simple, but very scary scenes of her just standing above the bed, standing there by his side. You see hours go by. You're like, if you just imagine that happening, that's pretty creepy. So that's all fine. But then when we get to there gets a point in the movie where they start trying to define this ghost, define this demon. They change it from ghost to demon, and they start, throwing in that, it's something that's been following Katie all along. And then it starts hating on Micah and it kind of goes after him. And I really disliked that. I thought it started to take away from what they had started off with and creating a really real atmosphere and a real tone to this movie. When they started what I term as throwing the Hollywood into the movie and trying to butter it up for the people watching and giving explanations and all that. I would have much preferred just to see something unexplained, have it haunt the crap out of them, have it scare, continue with the scares. Don't give it a name. Don't give it any thought. Let it just scare the crap out of them. Let the audience think, damn, what the hell was that? Don't try to think that it was attached to her and whatever. Obviously, that then spewed on and gave it reason to have a sequel, part 2 and part 3. And I think, all these movies are kind of well done and so forth when they stick to the scare part. But when they start going on and start trying to attach and explain this and that, and like later on you see a bunch of witches and all, it becomes way too Hollywood. I think if they would have stayed to the original thing here, focused on the scares and left it at that, I mean, you still could have done sequels and found a way around it. And especially, what I hated about the end of the movie was I was fine with him coming flying at the camera. That was all exciting and everything like that. But then here comes Hollywood again, and she has to creep around and smile into the camera. That I thought just really blew that whole ending there and that whole scene. So again, we're going to remake Paranormal Activity here. You can keep much of the same, but just don't add any of this explanation of the ghost. Just let it haunt the crap out of them and go with it. And let's end it there. So I can already see you guys want to chime in. We're going to have a good discussion about this one. So I know Ken wants to just go at me now because of everything, because of Twilight. So you go.
Well, yeah. First of all, I'm reaching out to Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson to star in my remake. I'm just kidding. No, listen. I gotta say you nailed it, because I felt like everybody was so excited to watch the second one because the first one was excellent. Like, it was nothing that we'd seen before other than Blair Witch, right? And it was definitely, you nailed it. Like, it went to Hollywood. Like, it got too big for its own good. And it wasn't the same. Like, I just didn't, I was okay. It wasn't horrible. But if I was going to go with this, man, I mean, I would definitely do like a more modern take. And all I can think about is Host. Like, Host kind of is the Paranormal Activity, what should have been the sequel. So I'm not going to go too far into it, but I would just say that, like, I would have done something similar to what Host did, and using the technology that we do, like TikTok or just all this weird stuff that we have today, But yeah, I think that Host kind of remade Paranormal Activity without knowing that. Well, maybe they did, but I thought that it was scary and you're in tune and you're like watching it and it's first person. So I don't know if I could do a better job in my mind than what Host did. So I'll pass it on over to Chris.
I kind of like the ending. Much like the movie today, I'm not gonna mention what happened when the paranormal investigators came, because that's a nice little segment in there. But the paranormal investigator, and forget his name, it was a weird name. That the name itself annoyed me. But in Paranormal Activity, when he met his demise at the end, I was just so happy. So I kind of liked it. I'm a little biased. So Um, it's kind of a little less threatening than I think in 2 or 3 or 4, the baby ends up gone or stolen or something. So this was a little easier on the palate, but I kind of liked it.
I'm a huge fan of the franchise, and I think each film had something unique to offer. Definitely for sure. But I agree. There's something to be said for the unknown being very terrifying. And when you go too far into the story and give a little too much explanation, I understand. I've heard so much argument about whether or not some people love a good backstory. And I'm 50-50. I think it all depends on what we're talking about. So, I mean, I liked it, but I do agree the very end, was that a little over the top? Was it not? I guess it was all right. I thought they could have done something a little bit different. I saw there's different endings out there. I have, if any of us own the Blu-ray or DVD, they definitely have different director cut endings, alternate endings. So it was interesting to see those different takes. So I kind of feel like my ending has already been used. I don't think I would have used the original, but I enjoyed the film as a whole. Actually, part 2 is actually one of my favorites. So over the original, I really liked the extension about how just the whole thing, spilled out over into the extended family and things like that. I thought that was really interesting. But I don't know. I mean, I think that Ken kind of pretty much hit on making it more modern. I just kind of feel like I'm going to jump on Ken's back here. And it's, something to do with technology, definitely. Something, maybe updating it a little bit, but yeah, I just loved it. I love those films. And I do know that I know people that absolutely hate them. I love them. But I enjoyed them. I didn't really change a whole lot. And I'm a found footage fan, so I'm like the worst person to ask about this. So like, I loved them, but I think that each one of them had their different flaws and faults and everything like that as well. But I enjoyed them, honestly.
Okay, I didn't not enjoy them. I just felt like, and I know you like your sequels, but
Yeah. So
I
of
just
course it was going to be a sequel.
yeah, like, and they had to do a sequel because they did so well with the first one. But I think Horo nailed it. Like I said, they just went too Hollywood with it, and the aura or whatever you want to call it was just not there. They had a few good scares there or
Well,
whatever, but
I think. Oh, actually, the one thing I did, I was going to say earlier, I forgot what I was going to say, but it kind of starts out as, and I think Horo has mentioned this before when we've talked about Paranormal Activity. It starts out as being a supernatural presence, and it turns out to be more of like about witches. Witchcraft and covens and things of that nature, and it kind of like goes in a different direction than originally started. I kind of liked the supernatural, paranormal, ghost, spirit, evil spirit, demonic spirit, whatever you want to call it, as opposed to maybe more of the witch storyline. It was still good. I still love them, but I wish they would have stayed more with like the ghost, evil spirit type of thing. So that would be the only thing I would really change. I don't know if I would really stay with the witchcraft aspect. I don't know. That's just my take on it. I kind of like
Yeah.
the evil ghost.
I think as the whole series goes on, you can completely tell that they're searching for things and they're dragging it out to make more money as it goes. And not to say that there's not good scares in each of the movies. I think part 2, the kitchen scene, is a terrific thing, and we obviously saw that in another recent movie we just saw. But I think again here, one of the reasons Ken brings up Host, and one of the reasons why that works is because you never really find out anything about what the hell it is that's haunting them. It's just, they brought it on, they give a reason why it's there, but you don't know who it is, where it comes from, what the hell its story is. And it works so well, and it just makes the scares even scarier. In Paranormal Activity, the more you give it, a name or background information, the less scarier it becomes and the more Hollywood it becomes. And it just takes away from something that was just so original to begin with. Like I said, it starts as a short film, made it onto the big screen here. And even in the beginning of the movie, like I said, nobody's really seen the scenes where a woman is just standing over the bed. I mean, can you imagine waking up and seeing your loved one just standing there and like a freeze there, and what is happening? It's just very creepy in itself.
I'm pretty sure my daughter my daughter does that, because sometimes I just wake up and she's standing right there. It freaks the hell out of me, man. I'll tell you what.
Exactly. So, as you just give it more, you just kill those scares. And that's my biggest issue with it. And again, I liked the ending. I liked him coming at the screen. I don't, that was fine. But then she has to come around and give a big smile. And to me, that's just Hollywood, giving it a stamp, saying, we were here, we ruined this movie for you. And kind of, just uh, and then here we go with the sequels. Then sequels were going to roll at that point. So with that, and speaking of Hollywood, let's jump right into the news, because we always got to talk about how they are ruining things for us. So that I'm going to start with remake news. Apparently there is casting going on now for a new, we've been speaking about it, Urban Legend. The Urban Legend movie is now going to be remade, and they've started casting for that. I don't know that they need a remake of this. We don't need to debate this, but you could just slap Urban Legend a name on there and go with whatever. And does it really need to be a remake? I don't know. Another remake news. We know that Texas Chainsaw Massacre is getting remade, and apparently the director after 1 week has dropped out. So now they've got a new director, and basically have scrapped everything they've shot in a week, and they will be starting over. So fun times for them. We've talked about cursed films, and maybe that one is going to be cursed now. DC's Swamp Thing. If I know very few people got to see that, but it looks like CW has picked that up. I guess they need to fill a slot there, and they're going to show the first and only season that was shown there. And I kind of like. I didn't see any of it, but I kind of like the old Swamp Thing. I kind of hope that maybe audiences tune in now that it's actually on a regular channel. Maybe people will watch and give it enough views that maybe they decide to revisit. Small hope, small hope. John Carpenter made some news. He was taking part in Fantasia and one of their live panels. And I guess they brought up The Thing. And I know we mentioned a while back that they are doing another Thing movie. And I guess he gave hints that he might be involved with this. So we'll see. He may or may not be involved. To what extent, we don't know. But I guess people put one and one, who listened to that, put one and one together. And he may be involved in some part or aspect of that coming to us soon. I know Ken talked about this show a while back, and I actually watched it. And now I'm very mad that they canceled it, and that's Penny Dreadful. The one and only season of the new version of Penny Dreadful has been canceled. Kind of pisses me off for making me watch that, and now it's over. But it is what it is, and I guess if you watched it, you can kind of see how that really wasn't going to work. Let's see. For those that liked The Strangers, the director of that is coming out with a new one, and it is called The Dark and the Wicked, and that will be in theaters in November and on Shudder eventually, which is good news. Let's see, Becky, which I mentioned earlier, that'll be coming to Blu-ray in September, and I definitely very much recommend everybody checking that out. I just love that movie, one of the best movies I've seen this year. If you're in LA and looking for something to do, a Stranger Things drive-in experience is going to be coming soon. So that is pretty cool, while the rest of us sit here and probably not going to have a Halloween or nothing and just sit here looking at a screen here. People can at least drive in and enjoy whatever event they're going to do there. I guess let's finish it off with some more Shudder news, because they're just blowing it out of the park here. They're going to be bringing us 61 Days of Halloween. Just absolutely fantastic lineup. The Color Out of Space, Veronica, Scare Me, Spiral, The Cleansing Hour, The Mortuary Collection. I've seen it, watch it. Terrific anthology. Nosferatu. If you haven't seen season 2, I guess they're going to bring season 2 to Shudder. The Gulag, Vincent Price Collection, and of course Joe Bob will be back as well. And they've also acquired Slacks, Lucky, and Hunted from Fantasia Festival. I've seen one of those films, can't really comment yet, but obviously, it's big time when you get movies from that festival. So we'll end this off with my recommendations, and I have to make an apology to start, and that is to Deep Blue Sea Part 3. I spent a lot of time kind of trashing that and asking why they did that. Not gonna say it's the best movie, but it actually turned out to be not bad and actually worth a decent watch. Probably better than part two. Um, and maybe not a total shark movie. There's a lot of more maybe tilted toward action with some sharks in it, but still much better than I thought it was gonna be. So I can always admit when I'm wrong, but I'm not wrong about this whole Twilight thing. And another movie is Uncle Peckerhead. Yes, look into that. That just came out. Definitely an interesting movie there. Those are my recommendations.
That Uncle Peckerhead is probably Muse's uncle, but so just be careful with what you call him.
Right.
I gotta get my licks in. We gotta wait a whole week till we actually talk instead of text back
Right.
and forth. But yeah, well done. Lots of news there. I know Fantasia's. We've seen what movies are coming out. There's one movie that I do have in mind that I do want to bring some of the the director and producer onto the show, and I'll get to that hopefully later. But that being said, we do have a wonderful movie that we get to talk about and hear Chris talk about tonight, and that is The Unfamiliar. So, Chris, let's hear the creature feature of the week.
Yeah, in a moment, Hank Pretorius will be on, and you're not going to want to miss that. What a neat guy. Enjoyed him a lot. This is kind of a neat movie. There are a lot of familiar plot lines, and then a couple of different ones formed together to make a movie that ends up being something a lot different at the end than it looked like it was going to be at the beginning. It's a setting in I guess a London, outside of London. It's not London. And if you read the description of the movie, you're thinking, okay, it's kind of going to be kind of like The Wicker Man, but it's not. Jemima West plays a army doctor who is back from Afghanistan. She had to leave her family and go serve. She had to leave a newborn baby and go serve, and she's coming home. And a familiar tale of coming home after horrible injury, not just physical, but certainly scarred mentally. And I say injury, she's probably having a very normal reaction to a very abnormal set of events. And so that's one of the things that they get into in this movie. Is it PTSD? Or are you just behaving normally? You saw something awful. Time's going to heal wounds somewhat, but it's going to be part of you. Well, we don't know yet. Because when she comes home, she's apparently coming home to a very loving family. A doting husband played by Christopher Dane, who's almost sickeningly sweet. When you see how sickeningly sweet he is, you're guessing something's coming. Nobody's that good. A rebellious teenager, okay, Emma, and a little boy who might be having imagination and obedience problems, or maybe not. You know how these movies go. And of course, infant, Lily, 6 months old or 8 months old or something. And she is starting to see some strange things around the house, and she's in a weird position because she doesn't know to say, hey, look what's happening, because she doesn't want her family to think she's crazy or to worry them. But it starts off kind of slow, and I say kind of slow. This happens really soon in the movie, so a low level, I should say low level, but eventually it's going to get ultimately weird. And she's telling her husband doesn't believe her. Her husband's saying, well, you know what the doctor said, they give you medication. We agreed you would get treated for PTSD. And she's saying, I am taking my medication. It's not the PTSD. And of course, the husband gives her a loving look and say, oh, that's nice. And he doesn't believe her. And she knows she's not crazy. But there's indications that something is in the house, and we think it's something paranormal. Through a weird chain of events, she's hooked up with a paranormal investigator. And so we're thinking, okay, we're going in this direction. But there's indications that the husband might be up to something, might not be as copacetic as things seem. He's got weird Hawaiian artifacts. One in the baby's room, supposedly to ward off evil spirits. but it looks weird. It doesn't look like it wards off evil spirits. The look of it makes you think the evil spirits are coming in. That might or might not be happening. Well, the paranormal angle, as far as Jemima West's character goes, Lizzie, seems to crash and seems to suggest, okay, that's not it. I need to listen to my husband. I'm having problems. And there's one really ripping, gory, unbelievable scene where I'm not going to give it away, but it's just shocking. And of course, was it imagined or was it something else? And because it's in this movie, you think it might have been something else. We just don't know what. Well, unwisely, she cedes to her husband's desires and they go for a holiday in Hawaii. And in Hawaii, I'm not going to give too much away, but the husband has a connection there that might not be the healthiest thing for the family. They're in Hawaii, not necessarily for a holiday, but the husband has ulterior motives. And if you think things were strange back in merry old England, they're going to get stranger. There's going to be a hint of, I don't know if you want to say evil parrots, evil presences, evil demons, maybe some sort of pagan Wicker Man type stuff. And then the weird, eerie lagoon. Now, no more of the plot, but it's really interesting here that Hank Pretorius really obviously knows about PTSD, and a lot about PTSD, whether it be in a conversational sense or what you're seeing in front of you, comes to light. This is an evolving science that's come so far in the last 10 years, and it's going to come a lot farther in 10 more years when we figure out what we still don't know about it. It used to be, we called it shell shock back during World War I and World War II. In the classic thing, the bombs go off and you dunk under the table. And then when you come home, there's a loud noise outside and you duck under the table. It's more than that. And whether Jemima West's Lizzie is actually experiencing it, or is something else, or is it both? I'll give you a clue. It's a lot else, which is unfortunate because she might also be suffering from PTSD, and this is the last thing she needs. And what I think Omar and I appreciate, what Haro and I appreciate, is whatever she's going through, she's a strong human being. She's a soldier, and that comes out. And whatever is being put upon her, it's kind of nice to see when she reverts to what she was doing back in Afghanistan. So in a sense, that landscape that was so horrific to her might just be her salvation once everything goes to pot in Hawaii. And I'm not gonna say too much more because I don't want to give anything of the second half of the movie away, especially what happens in the lagoon. And Hank Pretorius will be talking to us any moment now.
Yeah, great review, Chris. It's hard, especially when a movie had just came out. I know we do talk about sometimes movies that have already been out for years, but this one, since it's fresh, it's new, we don't want to give away too much. So I do want to kind of go around and just get you guys' views before we get on with Hank here. I'm going to go ahead and go first. When I watched this movie, I thought it was a really just well done movie. The sound, I love watching it with my headphones because you really hear the music is like its own character in a sense. There were some jump scares in there. And I love that, you're trying to think like, is this woman going crazy or what is going on here? And Jemima, how do you say it? Jemima, right? She did such a good job in her role. And when I'm watching this, I was almost comparing it to, what was the movie we did? The Wretched, a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Kind of reminded me of The Wretched a little bit, which I loved. I thought The Wretched was awesome. Obviously it wasn't as gory or anything like that. There were some scenes that were tough to watch. I go like, it hurts. But I recommend this movie. Definitely check it out. It's not like, I always like to prepare people when they watch these movies that we watch. We don't always watch the most scariest, or we really our range is so all over the place. And this one is just a good movie. I didn't think it was like the scariest or anything like that. It was just a good tale. It was a good story. It moved well. The acting was brilliant. The shots, the cinematography was amazing. I appreciate that so much. So yeah, that's my thoughts. I give it 2 thumbs up. Hora, what'd you think?
I thought one of the fascinating things about the movie that I picked up on real early and is that how fast it moved. Like it didn't really waste any time. You kind of get thrown right in.
Oh, and Horo got
Well said,
yeah,
Har.
yeah. Horo, you kind of cut out there for a second. No worries. Go
Gregor
ahead.
is his middle name.
Yeah, the hurricane is getting him. Muse, you might have to jump in here for a second.
No,
Go ahead.
I don't know
Oh, there he
where
is.
I ended off, but
There he is.
basically,
There he is.
I'm here. I'm alive.
You're live.
It's always around this time, I don't know what the story is. Okay, I'm still alive here. Basically, starting off here in the beginning of the movie, it starts fast, and that's what I like. There's don't waste too much time with character introductions and building anything. There's a scare early off in this movie. Obviously, you know that it's not going to end a certain way because then the movie will be over. But still, it's a pretty intense scene and something you don't see in a lot of movies. And it continues this pace throughout and kind of sets the bar. You have no choice you can't go backwards from this point. You basically gotta start sprinting and continue to move as quickly as you can. So it is a movie that doesn't waste too much time on dialogue and so forth. Continues to bring the scares. Whether it scares you or not, that's up to everybody to see. But definitely there'll be plenty of times that they're going to try and try and try again to do it to you. And I thought the little boy was very interesting. We talk about the kids in these movies all the time. At first, I was kind of like, I don't know, I'm not really liking him, and but then I did. So I don't know. Take it for what it is, but I think he did a pretty good job, and the acting was solid all around. And definitely that final scene, I love. We talked about final moments of these films. Definitely wait to the final moment. I definitely think whether you liked it or not, it's going to give you a solid hit there at the end.
And how about you, lady? What did you think about it?
Pretty much going to echo what everybody else said. It's a brilliant film. Definitely great acting. You said you mentioned the cinematography. Great story. I love a film that will give you a lot of good twists. And Chris said it started out one way and it ended up being something else. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. It totally worked here. I loved it. I love that it turned out to not be what I thought. And it was just a great story. Just I love the folklore, a lot of great character effects, makeup. I thought it had a real creepy atmosphere, eerie. And there's times when you're like, okay, is something going to happen? Is it not going to happen? The buildup was really good, and they had you like really like, okay, like what's about to happen right here. And just when you think once you start to relax, something else will happen, and you don't really get a moment to pause and come up for air, which Horo touched on. And the pace of the movie is excellent. And so it ticked all the boxes as far as just being a solid film and great story. The acting was absolutely great. I agree with Horo about the little boy, about Tommy's character. I wasn't sure yet. I was like, this precocious kid, I mean, what's he about? Is he going to be kind of like causing trouble? Is he going to be? But he turns out to be maybe also not what you think as well. Don't want to give too much away there. Is he a troublemaker? Is he not? I'm not going to tell you. But you're not going to be sure about him as the movie progresses. So just definitely, this is one of those films that is going to have you kind of like wondering exactly what's going to happen, all to the very last scene. And there's some great scenes. And definitely, this is a great movie, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I definitely we got to go back and talk to about that boy. I thought he did well. It's like, and whenever you get the kid, something's going to be bad, but don't judge a book by its cover. So with all that being said, listen to our interview here with Hank Pretorius. We'll be right back. All right, guys, we're going to end it now. All right, man. Oh, awesome job there with the questions, you guys. Hank was awesome. I really just want to say thanks to Hank and staying up with us to do that interview. So yeah, let's bring it on home. Another one for the good guys. We did a great show tonight. Good job, guys. So let's go around the horn. Any shout outs you guys have? Horo, we'll start with you tonight.
All right. Well, I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible. I know, a lot of us are on Twitter and have a take our Twitter accounts very seriously. So for those who do take their account very seriously, I just want to throw out a warning real quickly. Watch who's following you. And be careful, because I've been checking and I noticed that there are some people out there who, might say that they like horror or whatever, but then you check their account and it's nothing but all this politics stuff and so forth. And they have no interest in what you're doing and whatever. And I'm not talking about either side. It doesn't matter what side. But just, you don't need to be following these people. And I found out, I'm I watch my account very, very closely. And I found people that I'm following that I know that I didn't follow. So I don't know how that's happening or what's going on. So if you really like your accounts, you're trying to be careful with it, and you're seeing a lot of garbage come through, just be aware this is happening, especially the closer we get to this election that's going on. And again, I'm not saying either side. It is just a thing that's happening because it's social media. So if you're, just be mindful and protect your accounts here, and just get rid of all the garbage and fake horror fans or fake whatever accounts that are out there. With that said, I'm going to give a mystery shout out here, and I'm not going to reveal why I'm doing this, the real reason why I'm doing this until later on, but it's going to be to Brian Bertino. You may or may not know who that is, but I'm not going to tell you why, but he's going to get my shout out. And at a later date, you're going to see why. So as always with that, spread the horror. And remember, vampires don't sparkle, they burn.
Oh, man. All right, Chris, what do you got for us tonight?
No shout outs this week. I'll double it up next week, though, I promise.
Sounds good. And then, Lady, what do you got?
All right, I just wanted to shout out one of our partners there in the Strange Society Network, Tony Soros Rex. He's got everything but the podcast. I'm gonna talk a minute about his Patreon. He's trying to get that started. So anybody that would like to jump in and help him with that, it would be greatly appreciated. It's just one tier, $3, and it gives you access to new exclusive podcasts every week, bonus episodes, access to Patreon-only posts and blogs, ad-free content, episodes. He does all kinds of extra podcasts that you would not hear at any other place unless you're a Patreon. It's really affordable, great stuff. He'll give a weekly shout out, exclusive video content, and live streams that you'll be included in as well. I know that he would love to give you guys more, and this would give him more giveaways. He's really cool about the giveaways. I actually won one and got like this really cool Thor Thanos kind of like a pop figure. It was really neat. So I know he would love to do more of that for you as well. So definitely check out his Patreon for everything but the podcast. Like I said, $3 is pretty affordable, and that's the only tier, and you get everything. So I also wanted to shout out Ezekiel Kincaid. He's back on Twitter. Welcome back, Ezekiel. We missed you. And he is a great writer. And I'm going to mess up the title of his book, but is The Adventures of Johnny Walker Demon Slayer, I think. And I'm almost close, but you guys got to read that book. That's a fun book. And I'm looking forward to the follow-up. I believe he said he was writing a follow-up as well. And I'm so excited he's back. So those are my two shout outs.
Right on. Well, as for me, thank you so much for all the viewers tonight on YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope. Muse, my mom sent me a message she was watching, and she said that you scared her with the Or Sinister 6. No, that's funny. And also, just shout out to Isaac Thorne. Check him out at isaacthorne.com. He does the opening for our show on the podcast. And we're doing a really quick contest. Just send me a message. Tell me why you like Evil Dead 2. Make sure you're following us at Hourglass Escapes. That was the escape room we did last week with Evil Dead 2. And we will give you a $50 gift card to do escape the room. Anyway, on behalf of Where the Scary Things Are, thank you so much for listening to our show. And until next time, keep it scary, my friends.